Forward with SK Ghosh, Group Chief Economic Advisor at SBI, joining us on the phone line right now. Mr. Ghosh, morning, and you're giving us bad news this morning. What makes you believe that the GDP print for the second quarter is going to be sub 5%?
See, all indicators are showing a slowdown, has shown a slowdown in the July to September quarter. If you look into the acceleration rate of the 33 leading indicators which we track and which has a close correlation with the GDP growth rate, the monthly acceleration rate is now down to 17% in September. So that is at an historical low, and that has been declining more from around 65% just a couple of years back to around 17% right now. So the deceleration has been significant, and it has gained pace from March 2019. So while there could be always some plus minus 10-20 basis point impact on the estimates, but it's certain that the GDP growth rate this quarter will be sub 5% and possibly sub 4.5%.
What you're saying is that India now slips below the 5% GDP growth club. Now, 5 and 4.99 does not matter, but the minute you go below 5%, the money allocators will say the word ouch.
No, I think yes. I don't want to get into that investment allocation, but the fact is that the growth rate this quarter will be significantly on the lower side. And even if suppose this quarter gets a jump up because of the government expenditure, you remember that the RBI had actually there was a huge surplus of transfer, so there could be an artificial bump up to the growth rate. Maybe from 4.2 it can go to 4.3 or 4.4. But the point is that Q3 and Q4 as of now doesn't look promising. So to get to an 5% growth rate, at least one of the quarters you need to hit 6%. So that could be in Q4. If you are in the range of 5.5 to 5.8%, even in Q3 and Q4, that could actually pull down the growth rate to 5% or maybe even below that. So this year the growth rate doesn't look promising as of now.
And given the fact that now it's been cut to sub 5%, this is obviously an indication that the next year's growth is now going to be sub 6%.
As of now, we have pegged the next year growth rate at 6.2%. So we expect that the next year could be favorable because there is a lot of steps that have been unveiled. And given the fact that RBI is cutting rates and the transmission happens with a lag, so possibly there could be some amount of pickup in consumption, but we again believe that rate cuts are unlikely to work because the household leverage is at higher levels, and given the fact that consumers are not willing to spend, you will see that this year actually the consumer spending post Diwali was very minimal, which is again a contrarian trend. So if the consumers are not spending, demand is not coming back. The steps which the government has taken will only take time to permeate through the system. So we are still at 6.2 next year as of now, but it will depend on how the situations evolve.
I also wanted to understand that at a time like this, one would look to the central bank and hope for larger rate cuts. At a time when the central bank has already been in easing mode, we all know that they do not have much elbow room. If the print of GDP is to be sub 5%, what can we expect from them?
See, I think the central bank, obviously there will be pressure on the central bank to cut rates, but beyond the cutting rates, I think the couple of steps are required, which all of us have to work in unison. The first is the resolution of the NBFC sector, because the NBFC sector actually has been, doing that badly, and the credit flow has almost collapsed from the NBFC sector. So until and unless we find a resolution to the NBFC sector problems, it's going to be difficult. Then there are sectors like power is another sector. If you look into the October demand, that was at all-time low. So in a growing economy, it is very difficult to believe that power demand is actually at negative levels, and that is because of structural problems with the discoms. The telecom sector, that is already in the news. Today also there has been news. So I think there are several sector-specific problems. We need to address them one by one. And the fiscal and monetary policy only can work in the supplement. We need to sector-specific policies. For example, the IBC resolution also has been not that satisfactory. So we need to look into all these aspects. So it's not a problem. It's not the easy thing to do. It's not that the fiscal and monetary policy will all do the trick. But until and unless we solve these basic problems, it will be difficult for growth to come back.
Okay, fair enough. Thanks for giving us an assessment of what the outlook is on the macroeconomic picture.